All right. Hello. We're going to give people a few minutes to come on, and then I'll be introducing this gentleman here that's with me. Ah. Let's just take a moment while we're giving people time to come on to
Right.
just breathe. My last live, I actually tried to play music, and then when I went back and watched the replay on YouTube, nobody could hear the music, but I'm going like this, and I'm like this, and,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, oh,
My original discipline is in IT, and I know a bunch about computers and all that. So I know that the phones and laptops and iPads, they're designed to hone in on voice and shut everything else out. So if you have a repeating thing with while you're talking, it's going to suppress it.
oh,
Yeah.
okay,
It's
okay.
natural. It's basically because it's designed for conversation. So if there's like a ding, 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 ding in the back, it'll hear that and like cut it out.
Oh, makes sense. Because
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I'm like starting this, and people are probably like, what is she doing? She's,
What you
I was kind
doing?
of like,
Uh,
and I'm like singing every other word or whatever. And, and they're probably like, oh my gosh, she can't sing. What's she doing?
yeah, I literally just had a conversation with a friend of mine about that because she was trying to do a live stream on Instagram and
Yes.
wanted to do both at the same time. And I showed her kind of a way around it, but it's difficult because it's designed against that. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you to those who are coming on. Please say hello. Let us know that you're here. And I have Brian on today, who is a storyteller. And I actually found him through Instagram when I was, just kind of looking, and I saw these amazing pictures. And I was like, hit him up, started talking, and then he was so nice to offer me to be able to use one of his pictures if I liked for my
That's
upcoming retreat, kink retreat. So I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. I like this man. And so anyway, I wanted to have Brian come on today and just talk about some of his work at Black Touch. So he does a lot of just amazing pictures. I'm gonna have him introduce himself first and foremost before I'm just like talking and talking and talking. But tell us about your work, Black Touch, and how it just kind of captured me and had me like, oh my God, this is amazing work.
So I'm like Renee mentioned, I'm Brian Dwayne, and I'm the creator, storyteller, the everything behind the brand that I created last year called Black Touch. And what Black Touch is essentially is a black erotica project where the focus is on sensuality, sexuality, connectiveness between black folks. So it's by us and it's for us. And the goal is essentially to create content, erotic content, where we are seen as whole people, as opposed to being a part of someone else's story or being an object in someone else's story or a part of a fetish. Um, and even when you do see, erotic material and it only features black people, it's still pretty, what I would consider shallow, where
Mhm.
the goal is just to get to the sex. There's a big butt girl, a guy with a big penis, and it's just whap, 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 and it's done. Um, to me, there was enough of that out there. When I decided to get into erotica, I knew that I wanted to approach it in a way that answered a calling that I had. Like it was something that if it were out there, I'd be paying attention to it. And
Mhm.
so, um, Black Touch essentially is my response to the current state of Black erotica. Not that there are
Mhm.
other people doing that level of work. I'm just not very familiar with it if there are. So
Mhm.
me saying I'm taking my photography, video, and editing skills and putting it towards creating erotica that I like to see.
Yeah. And how did you get started in this? Like, I guess you kind of were saying, but like, um, in a sense, not necessarily how you got started, but like, how did you really just get the courage to say, okay, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in erotica. I'm going to take these pictures. Let me do this, you
Yeah,
know?
it wasn't. So maybe I've been thinking about it since like 2016. I remember
Mm-hmm,
reaching out to a friend of mine, Buried All by BIA by Velvet Lene.
mm-hmm,
You can find her on Instagram under that
mm-hmm,
name, BIA by Velvet Lene. Well, so she's been creating erotic work like for her book since before I met her, which was in 2016. And I was at the time I was just doing kind of implied nude photography with women. And I asked her, I told her this is the stuff I want to get into. And it
right.
2016, 2017, 18. And then at the beginning of 2019, I did a shoot with one female model and two males, and we created a sort of like a polyamorous shoot where instead of her being sort of an object in it, it was mutual. They were both they had adoration for her, and there was a connection that they had with her. Um, so we did the shoot. We put it out in like right at the beginning of 2019, and it went viral. A bunch of people shared it. They turned into memes. There was all this energy around it, and I didn't think it was going to be that big.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do another shoot, and instead of just releasing that shoot,
Sorry, I'm reading the notes. so Sasha writes, he's handsome.
thank you.
LOL. Then she says he could do a shoot with me. So, ladies, we interrupted his flow. I'm so
No,
sorry, but let me say, I gotta admit, this is the reason why I asked him on here. I did enjoy his pictures and his art, but then when I saw him, I was like, "Ooh, he's good looking. He's quite handsome.
thank you,
I'd
thank you.
love to be able to converse with him a little bit." So sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I appreciate that. So the project, the idea was my second shoot after that first bigger shoot. That first shoot where it was a polyamorous shoot between one female and two males. That got kind of a lot of attention. I shot a second one, which were two women. It was a dom and sub relationship, and I took the time and I shot and I edited, really well. And then I'm thinking, I don't want to just put this out there and let it get big without having it something that is tied
Mhm,
to. So I went and I purchased the domain. I built the website, and I made it free. But all you have to do is go to the website and subscribe. And
mhm.
so that's been the pattern that I've been following since. I create a piece of core content, which is sort of matured as I've been going through from next to scene to scene. Uh,
Mhm.
and really, all I asked until recently is for people to sign in. And thank you. Uh,
Look. You know it's gonna be a great conversation just because he's handsome and he got a great beard. Oh my God.
um, uh,
so so my
so the idea essentially is
he
that
trying to be serious here. He trying to have a conversation.
people can access the website and all the content on it at this moment, but just by signing up. Subscribing to the email, you get a link, and from there you're straight. You can see everything, the videos, the photos that I've created. Um,
Mhm,
so that's what inspired me was essentially as I kept moving forward, I just wanted to make more and more of what I didn't see. I wanted to see erotic imagery where there's a connection, a true connection between the people in it, and where actually it sort of leaned more towards the feminine as opposed to most, let's say, porn or erotica is focused on stimulating men and not so much giving women a voice. So I try to incorporate that in my storytelling and in the production that I create. So
awesome. You know, and so just kind of someone else made a comment here, and so she said, Ty, hey guys, you both look great. I'm here for this conversation because discussion because I'm currently working on my urban erotica collection of short stories titled Confessions of a Globetrotter. which shares the stories of brothers and sisters who have had international sexcapades.
I like that.
Yes, me too. Me
Um,
too.
yeah, maybe Ty, you can check something out. So I've had a ton of like ideas, and I'm originally like an IT guy, so I like setting up the website and creating portions of it and putting up projects is not really the challenge for me. It's really more about staying the course. But
Hmm.
part of what I've done is I created a segment of the Black Touch site that's called Black Tales, where I highlight
Hmm.
video, audio, written, and what is the fourth? Is written, video, audio, and their stories submitted by
Hmm.
fans and submitted by other creatives. So at this point, I have about 3,300 people on my mailing list, and it's growing daily. So what I do,
Hmm.
I send out an email to highlight posts that are underneath this Black Tails page, and I give total credit to the creators and links to their projects and where they're coming from and their social media feeds. So if
Hmm.
you get a chance, guys, go and check out the Black Tails page on blacktouch.com, and you'll see that there's a space where I'm trying, essentially bringing erotica from other sources to share with the community, because it's not just about my core content. It's really about giving a home to alternative Black erotica.
Right. Awesome. So this is not really part of the show, but are you single, Brian? Because I mean, seems like all these women. Lakita says, "I'm here for the conversation." Polly, single here. Are you single? Are you polyamorous? Are you taken? Like, 'cause
I'm,
I think people want to know.
I am polyamorous, and am I single? I have a partner. I have a partner, and I am polyamorous. So, um,
Mhm.
I haven't. My focus recently has been just on this project and trying to be productive. Not
I already
necessarily
see how this show gonna go.
what have my focus has been primarily to get this to stay on this work and what have you. So, but I definitely am polyamorous. I believe that you can love more than one person, and as long as you have a mentality that
Mhm.
allows you to be able to share yourself wholly with more than one person, and not, and also you have the temperament for it, because I don't believe in that one-sided thing where a guy would have multiple women, but they all have to sort of focus on him. I
Mhm.
have the temperament to be okay with my partner being able to explore what her desires are and her relationships and let them develop into what they are. So that's
Mhm.
my perspective on it, and I think that if you are drawn to do that sort of
Right.
that sort of relationship, then that's what makes you polyamorous. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna have to have you back on here again to talk about the polyamorous. I think the ladies
Sure
would
thing.
love that. Oh
Um,
Lord.
it's
Ty is asking, what's your sign?
I'm
What's your
a Taurus,
your what?
May Taurus. May 8th just passed. I turned 41.
Okay, okay,
I know
okay.
the beard is deceiving. Beard started coming here like mid-30s. Like, yeah, I can't. I'm not gonna dye it. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. But yeah,
Right.
I'm 41, and May 8th was my birthday.
Okay, okay, okay. Calm down, ladies. Nah, y'all gonna ask whatever y'all want to ask. All right.
Oh,
So, hello once again to those who are coming on. Hello, Ty, Tasha, Jean, Lakita, Ola. Thank you guys for coming on. Other people who are on, hello, say hello. Let us know you're here. Let me know if you have any questions. Tasha says, "Is there a lot of jealousy in those types of relationships?" Okay, we're gonna come back. We're gonna do a poly with Brian again. Okay, so
okay.
that way you're gonna have to just keep watching for when I have him back, so we could talk about polyamorous relationships and jealousy, because it is a good topic, and I
Mhm.
know a lot of people want to know that. A lot of people want to hear that. So I do want to get back to the erotica. And I guess the erotica, I guess it's kind of close to the jealousy and poly. I don't know. Everything's connected, really.
Yeah,
But save those questions. Keep asking. We'll put all these questions together so that we can have him back on again and talk specifically about poly relationships, his sign, his age, all of those things you want to know about him.
yeah.
Write the
I'm not used
questions.
to direct attention. Like I usually create a piece of work and I put it out there and I go, look at that. As opposed to like, hey, I'm usually behind the scenes, but I appreciate that.
So now I'm getting all lost track of what what I wanted to know. Um, but yeah, so it's an interesting thing because when you work with erotica, I first started reading erotica. One of the books that I started reading was Mary B. Morrison. She has a whole like series of erotica stories, and
Mhm.
they were great. Um, these notes, I'm sorry, Tasha is off the chain.
Lit right now.
Right. Oh, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Tasha. You can keep being you. I love it. This makes it fun.
Yeah,
And I think right now we need to laugh. We need to have fun, and we need to,
I
you
totally.
know, say how beautiful our black men are, how beautiful our black women are. We're loved, we're beautiful, we're intelligent, we're smart, we're wanted. We're all of that. So, um, we need to laugh. So we need to laugh. But going back to the erotica, like, as I was saying, I started reading erotica books when I was like in my 20s, and it really just did something to me. Like it awoke. It awoke. Amazing word. This is what happens when you've been in Brazil for so long. So it awoke different parts of my body that I didn't even realize. Like just from reading the book, I would feel my pussy start to like tingle, start to vibrate, and it was like feeling good. And I'm like, ooh, like what's going on? I'm just reading a book and this
Right,
is happening and I'm getting wet now. Like, whoa,
right.
I never knew that could happen. And so does that happen like from
Well,
your art? Has people talked to you about that?
I've had people like message me. So when I create something new, I post it up, send it to the mailing list first, and I always ask them to give me feedback. And so far, I've gotten a lot of feedback in terms of usually from Black women who are my target audience primarily. Is
Hmm.
that they haven't seen anything like this, and that this was so sensual, or um, they dig the story for this particular scene, um, and that they usually don't get too explicit in their response. It's usually that this is something that they've been waiting for, or they're waiting to see the next thing that I put out. And from, let's say, like, I've received DMs, and I'm open to like having conversations via DM, which is I think of why, like, it being a small project. There isn't 20 people; it's just me. So if someone's following me on Instagram and they have a question and they want to discuss something, I'm totally open for it. And so um, because I created with the goal to keep the sensual portion in mind, as like I'm building the scene or I'm doing the photography. I think it connects with women a lot more, um,
Hmm.
as opposed to reading erotica, seeing it. If you're not used to seeing erotica videos that are designed to feel sensual and feel connected, it speaks to you differently.
Hmm.
It,
Hmm.
it's not like, usually your senses are bombarded and there's screaming and all sorts of stuff, and I'm sure that's a natural part of sex that happens, but so far I haven't created a scene that's so visceral, so intense.
Hmm.
But if I do, it's going to be through my perspective, through my eyes, which
Right.
usually still pretty well grounded. You know.
Hmm. And I think that's good. I think that's important because one of the things I'm always talking about porn a lot. is that porn, unless you're looking at conscious porn, there's so many different types of porn out there. But
Mhm.
in general, a lot of the porn is not really conscious or realistic. And
Mhm.
so, you'll watch porn and you see all this stuff and it's like all the sounds and all of this,
Yeah.
but it's not realistic. And so when people, a lot of times people are learning from porn and then they'll go home and try to do it. And it's like, well, it's not feeling the same way. Why am I not,
How
having this same
come you're
response?
not hitting E flat, sharp minor, like like
Right.
wild stuff? I totally get it because I mean, for a while, like I don't look at a ton of porn now. It's sort of like if you're a photographer, if you pay too much attention to other photographers, you start trying to emulate them. I don't look at a ton of it, but when I was looking primarily at amateur stuff
Hmm.
and looking for what I see as a real response to an actual encounter. So yeah, a woman can scream to the top of her lungs and scratch your back and do all of that, but if it's based off of if it's not scripted, if it's not because there's a lot of control in the middle,
Hmm.
of it, you know,
Right.
like there's three camera guys, there's a lighting guy, there's this and that, and a scene in production, high production erotica usually ends up being something where you're doing something over and over and over again. It has to be faked, even if there was a
Hmm.
connection there. It dies in the midst of all of the back and forth. Uh,
Yeah.
there's a question here. So, who is your favorite erotica author? So, I'm not a huge erotica reader. I'm actually a big nerd. In working, like building out the Black Tales portion of the site, I've come across the writings from a project called Afro Erotique. So AFROEROTIK. It's actually something that I think had come out like in 2006, no, 2016. Um, and so
Hmm.
there's a whole set of writings from her, and she reached out to me and sent them to me, and I took my time going through it. And she really takes her time building out the scenario and giving kind of a background and going in depth about the emotional state of the people in the story, so that when they do come together, when something does happen, it feels more realistic as opposed to just kind of like get to it.
Hmm.
So yeah, Afro-erotic is the one that I can mention specifically as an erotic author that I'm interested in.
And I really like, who I had mentioned, Mary B. Morrison,
Mhm.
and she also goes by Honey B. Morrison. And I think the reason why she's one of my favorites is not just because she does erotica, but she gives a lesson in each one. And so each one, she starts with what is it, a prologue, epilogue? What's the one in
The,
the beginning,
the
in
big
front?
problem.
Prologue,
Yeah, I believe so.
prologue. And so she kind of like talks about, it's like a little summary of what that whole story was about, but she
Mhm.
gives you the lesson, like the
Right.
takeaway. And it's like a takeaway of how you need to be in terms of really connected and grounded in yourself, or how to be sexually empowered, or
Mhm.
something within relationships. So I really respected that. And I feel like I learned a lot and grew a lot just from that, from reading her books, you
Yeah,
know?
I don't think that because there's sexual or sensual content in a story or a video that it just has to be that. I think that it can be the focus where everything eventually leads. But I love storytelling. I mean, that's that.
Mhm.
If you look at my Brian Dwayne thing, it says I'm a visual storyteller because I've
Yeah.
always wanted to tell stories. So even now, when I'm building out a scene, I start with the story. I don't really focus so much on the erotic part of it because
Right.
the way it works is that people will reach out to me. I have a list of maybe 60, 70 people across the United
Mhm.
States who've all said they wanted to be a part of Black Touch. And what I do is I'll put that in a database, and then I'll work out who can work with who. I'll figure all of the logistics of where, when, and who. But then I focus in on the story that I want to tell. And then I get
Mhm.
invested in the story, so that at the moment of execution, everybody's kind of excited to be a part of telling a story versus just carrying out a scene. That,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and we spoke earlier. I had a scene where, or I shot last week, where I wanted to tell the story of a woman who was in a marriage where she felt unfulfilled sexually, and
Mm-hmm.
had a desire to be in a dom sub relationship, being the sub. So she found this relationship, like with her husband. She had kids with him, but before meeting him, she had this incredible, wild sexual connection with a dom, and she found herself wanting to go back there, wanting to relive that experience, but also feeling she couldn't share that with her husband because of different reasons, which I go into.
Mm-hmm.
So I care about that backstory leading into the moment where she like eventually goes and sees her dom, and so when we're watching it, it's all connected. It isn't just
Mm-hmm.
he shows up to the scene, and there's paddles and whips and fire and all that stuff. It's like, wow, this is what she truly desires, and she went for
Mm-hmm.
it, you know.
Wow. Do you see, and that's so beautiful. Like that's so amazing to like be able to connect to that desire that you've wanted. Like, do you see a difference when the women are coming in or couples? Like maybe they first come in, maybe they're like all shy and embarrassed and not connected to their sexuality or sensuality. Do you see a transformation by the end of your shoot?
It's a good question. I've had a few um, where they started off being
Mm-hmm.
sort of like apprehensive a little bit. I mean, they knew what they were coming to do, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the people I shoot with have never done anything like this. So it's
Right.
a desire to be a part of the project, to tell a story, So I've had a couple where there might, the challenge, the thing is that it doesn't become challenging um, because in the beginning we establish a connection. Like me, like as the creator, the photographer, the videographer, I sit and I talk more than I shoot. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of like, even though this is a naturally an intimidating space, because I approach it as a human being and I'm very sensitive to the emotional state of the people I'm working with, it's sort of like there's a relaxation there. And afterwards, when they see the imagery and they love, they see the videography that we created together, I usually get praises from them that they love what they were able to create, and they would do it again if they could. Um, it's usually the first time they've ever done anything like it, and they usually love the results. And these are pretty, I would say they're already pretty liberated. It's just that when you do it in front of a crowd or in public, it's a little bit, there's of course intimidation there. There's a little bit of worry about backlash and things like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
about kind of like massaging that idea, like I understand that's where people are. I've even had a scene where I had to remove. It wasn't because of a woman in the scene. It was, I think the guy got married and he was like, could you take it down? I was like, no problem. I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's also the nature of what I do. I don't
Yeah.
much personal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and on that note, like, because there's a whole taboo about sexuality, right? There's a whole taboo about these images. And I remember one time I put a couple of nude pictures of me up on social media. You
Yeah.
know, my family was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? Your nieces and nephews are going to see this and all of this," and just like,
Yeah.
yeah, went crazy. And so for me, even though you couldn't see my nipples or anything because that was covered, but to
Mhm.
me, working with sexuality, I do tantric massage. So for me, I see penises, I see vaginas, I see breasts, I
Right.
see chest, and it's like we all have it. We all have it.
Yeah.
So
I totally understand where you're coming from.
mhm,
It's the duality of it. Like there's this desire to connect with it, and at the same time feel ashamed with that about that desire, right?
mhm,
But I think that isn't an original that is taught, of course, because if you let a child be
Mhm.
running around in the house and everyone else is naked, there isn't a thought of sexuality, right? Because
Right.
even the work that I do, the majority of the work that I have done isn't what I consider sexual. It's, the woman might be nude, she might be looking over her shoulder, might be sensual, but it's not about sex. It is not it's
Mhm.
like she's asking or showing desire in the image. But what usually happens is the people perceiving it or people watching it, they put their own mindset and their own feelings and their own, you know, thoughts and beliefs onto what they look at, which is
Mhm.
how the world works. A lot of the
Mhm.
time, what we're doing is looking at a reflection of our beliefs and our thoughts. Well,
Yes, so true.
stuff, whether it's political or sensual art, it's always really a reflection of us. And if we're clear about what that is, then it makes us question. If you understand that when I'm looking at something, I'm seeing a reflection of my beliefs, then it makes you question your beliefs. Like, is this even right? Yeah.
Right.
And most people don't. They just go by with that first feeling.
Wow, yeah. That's
Yeah.
so true. That's so
Yeah.
true.
You posted their images and you said they were worried about their kids seeing it and so on and so forth. But the truth is that that's their concern about the kids seeing you in that way has probably more to do with um, the fact
Where
that
they are.
yeah, they haven't seen the elders in their lives as whole
Mhm.
people, including
Mhm.
sexual and
Right.
sensual. So what they're saying is, I'm not used to seeing that, and what if the younger generation is exposed to that through you? It's like
Mhm.
I'm not comfortable with that, and I don't want my kids to get comfortable with that. But it doesn't mean it's
Right.
wrong. It's just their
Right.
their belief system at the moment.
Exactly, exactly. And I think, a large part of my work as well is to get rid of that taboo, to be more sexually liberated, because, it's we're the ones who make it an issue, and it's not an issue. It's something that's just so natural, so normal,
It is.
you know?
The feeling of it not being normal is taught to us. And
Right.
I say this a lot before. I used to say things that we experience on a day-to-day basis are usually normal, but they're not natural. So
Mhm.
the fact that we have to go into a supermarket to get our food, or the meat that we eat is packaged and we don't see the
Mhm.
where it came from, or whatever, right?
Right.
A lot of it is normalized, and we see it all the time, and we interact with the world in this particular way, and we follow a schedule, and we got to be at this place at 9, and all of that. It might be normal to us, but it doesn't mean it's natural. Natural
Mhm.
is what would happen if you take away all that construct, and
Right.
yeah, and people fight to keep what's normal normal. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you think how do you think that we could like get to that point where we're like, okay, this is normal, like not have all of this past stuff
That's
like
a great question.
interfere with these taboos being so strong in our minds?
I think that if you it's about being introspective, because the majority
Mhm.
of our beliefs are handed down to us. The majority of the way we see the world is given to us. And so if there's a distortion in the path before it gets to you, that distortion is handed down. So
Mhm.
the way you address it is you ask yourself, what is the real source of this belief that I have? Like
Mhm.
for a long time, I was like, excuse me, I was raised Christian, Seventh-day Adventist, and they don't wear earrings. They're against tattoos and stuff like that. And for the longest time, I had like this issue with tattoos. Like even now, I still don't have them. I don't have a desire to have them, but I never asked myself, why do I have this issue with it? Why do I have an issue
Mhm.
even though people around me had it, and I always had like this belief that something was wrong with having a tattoo, and I realized it was because there's probably someone several generations back in the church had this belief and taught everyone that this was wrong, and they taught someone who eventually taught my mom, who eventually,
Mhm. Yeah.
maybe not directly, but who eventually gave that belief to me. Now,
Mhm.
if you can examine the emotional feeling you have behind something, and then say to yourself, well, why do I feel this way? And
Mm-hmm.
realize that a lot of what we feel is again a reflection of what we were taught. Then you can start
Mm-hmm.
changing it. And the flip side of that is with my kids, I spend time. I have a son who's about to be 16 and a daughter who's 23. Um,
Wow.
yeah, she's my stepdaughter, but like she was born like
Oh,
as I was 18. So,
oh, okay.
so
You done told your age now. Tasha, did you hear that? Tasha, you still
well,
here?
I spend time telling them that, be mindful that even adults, even me, their mother, we are just older versions of you. Like we're older kids. So
Mhm.
the you don't just take what people tell you as truth. It's like there's the truth that resides and resounds within you, and then there's the truth that the world hands to you. And so with
Because I
that,
know when he said 23-year-old daughter, I was like, what? You cannot be old
yeah,
enough, that old to have,
yeah,
no, not,
she was born as I was graduating from high school, but not of me. She's my stepdaughter. I just been raising her since she was 4. That's why I don't
yeah.
usually I would say that. I'm
Hi, Dad.
43. She's
Mhm.
23. I'm 41 and she's 23. So yeah. Um.
Okay. Okay. Great
So
age. Great age.
my son's 16 in a couple of years. Like he'll be off to college and all will be well. So yeah, it's really the way you address it is by as a parent, as an elder, you teach people to think for themselves and to question everything. I learned
Mhm.
everything on my own the hard way, and I want my kids to grow up with that mindset to always question. Don't just accept. Don't just read what people tell you and internalize it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so important. That's so important. So important. And and not only just in this area of sexuality, but in all areas really. Like
Mm.
at the heart of the matter, this is why we're having all these issues we're having now today,
Yeah.
because we have just took we brought things from our past, how we see people, how we see things, and it's just ingrained in us. Instead of thinking and connecting to ourselves and who we are and what we feel about something or someone, you
Right.
know, we're just living automatically, going
Right.
off of all these other thoughts that are not even ours.
Not even ours. Don't belong to us. I mean, if you take
Yeah.
a look at there's the old videos where they show maybe a little white girl looking at different images of
Hmm.
dolls, and they ask them which is the good one, which is the bad one, and always the darker ones would be considered bad. The one that
Right.
looks like her is considered good, and then you have like a young black boy looking at the same images and saying the same thing that the little white girl said.
Hmm.
Oh, the white doll is good, the dark doll is bad, the dark doll is
Hmm.
happy, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about this at a very young age, and it's not somebody who's directly said this to them, but the message
Hmm.
that we're receiving are pervasive.
Hmm.
It's like, can you imagine that at the foundation of your understanding, the moment
Hmm.
you realize there's a difference, you start to believe what the world tells you is a part of that difference. So
Right.
the person over there is darker than you, right? When you're little,
Hmm.
I acknowledge that, but then the world is also feeding you messages to say that they're
Hmm.
also this bad, they're not smart, they want to hurt you, X, Y, and Z. And
Yeah.
so I've experienced, with all of this going on, there's like this awakening happening, right? And so
Hmm.
when I see adults and they talk, like adult white people might say, oh, I'm not prejudiced and so on and so forth. I'm like, then you probably were brought here from space because
Hmm.
most people are trained by society unconscious,
Unconsciously.
right? To
Hmm.
X, Y, and Z. And so,
Yes.
okay, you don't need to have the a conscious thought about this because believe it or not, a lot of black people, and I would say most, especially if you're raised in the same society, have the same beliefs where they're worried
Hmm.
about they're threatened because this message, like I said, is pervasive. It's coming through your TV, your music, your
Mm-hmm.
news. It's pervasive. It's constant. So
Constant.
that belief that we are inherently flawed as because we have melanin and we're black people, that is taught to white and black at the same time. The difference is
Yes.
for them, they don't have to deal with the consequences of that belief in society when we do. So when we see
Mm-hmm.
them pulling us over and killing us, they're like, I don't, that doesn't happen to us. I've never,
Right.
anybody that never happened to my friends. And it's like, yeah, because you don't have to live the results of that conditioning. We do,
We do.
we have to deal.
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing, because I can go
Uh-huh.
on forever. One more thing,
All right.
I believe that, if you have a power structure or someone that has more power because of the way the society is set up, it is actually it's one of the most difficult things for them to acknowledge that difference, to acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
that they have power, whether it's through race or through gender. It's hard for you to say, I can truly understand where somebody who does not have the privilege that I do is coming from, because a
Mm-hmm.
part of your identity is that privilege. It's
Yeah.
like sewn into you, like it's like woven into the type of person you are. So
Yeah.
how do I take off this part of me that I've known for my whole life, to acknowledge that someone else is living a different life because they don't have my skin?
Right.
That means that I don't, things aren't fair, and I need to do
Mm-hmm.
about it. And that's a lot to ask of people, whether it's
Oh yeah.
a male to female connection, or through race.
Mm-hmm.
For you to really acknowledge your privilege, and
Yeah.
you're confronted with it, you're gonna have to do something about it. And that, I
Right.
think, is a part of the bigger issue. That's why they fight back so hard. Like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't kneel. It's about the flag and the country.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah, I just don't get
you
it.
don't see it because you have to deal with the truth.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so I
So
could go
true. So, getting back to the erotica. So, Brian, what is it like for you, like when you're taking the pictures, when you're
on.
doing the shots and the images, and you're seeing these different, beautiful, melanated bodies in front of you?
Actually, it's like any other type of work, personally. Yeah, I mean, because um, I've been shooting nudity and black women for a while. Like, when I'm in the moment, I have the camera in my hand. I'm really focused on the art of what I'm seeing. So I don't personally get aroused or anything like that. It's more about, is this angle, or this perspective gonna, like, good? Can I see the art in this moment? Can I if what I'm seeing looks pleasing to me, versus drooling behind the camera. Like, I never feel that way, because it's sort of, it is not business. But it's more like a collaborative, creative effort.
Mhm.
So everyone has to
Yeah.
focus on what they're doing in order to have something worthwhile afterwards. And I don't ever
Yeah.
really. Or maybe
Yeah.
afterwards, if I'm looking back at it, I'm like, yo, I usually have the feeling like I was in the room when this happened, you know?
All right.
So I'm not focused on it.
Yeah, it's funny because I do tantric massage and I do couples workshops as well. So I teach couples tantric sex, tantric massage, and I've had people say, "Wait a minute, you've taught couples to have sex?" I'm like, "Yeah." They said, "Well, do you watch them have sex?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I watch them have sex because I'm teaching them what to do, and so
Right.
they're doing it and they're practicing it." And and so the thing is like, because it's work and I'm teaching, I'm in that mindset of making sure that they're doing it correctly. So it's like work. And then I think also for me, when I'm constantly seeing penises, vaginas, these different things, it's like, okay, it is
Yeah.
what it is,
After a while,
you know?
and to answer Tasha's question, like, no, I don't. The When I'm watching, when I'm doing the work, and this went back to, even if I don't, it doesn't, it takes more than a sexy body to get me aroused personally. So I'm more of a what is it called when you're into someone's mind?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can work with the most beautiful women in the world. They can get completely naked in front of me. It's not enough. It-
You need that intellectual stimulation.
a level of connectivity and a connection there.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh man, you just hotter right now. You just like we want you more now because you're not superficial, shallow, just looking at the body. You want a connection. You want
yeah,
stimulation. You want
it's
ooh,
the fastest way to kind of get sapiosexual.
a
That's right.
supersexual, yes.
Yeah, the way to kind of turn me off is to approach me purely on a sexual basis. Like if you're just saying, like if you're jumping my DMs and you're like, oh, I just want to do this to you, and you send me pictures, and it's like,
Yeah.
the only reason is because if it's like leading with sexuality for me, I just don't connect there first. It's like
Hmm.
the connection, sexuality comes after, or I see you in a sexual way after I know a little bit about you, and that's just how I am, and how I've always been.
we can connect like Legos.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did put up Brian's information, his email, and all that. Don't be harassing the poor guy, okay? Okay, he said it's okay. Harass him then. Be careful what you ask for. So, and that's a good point, and I think that sometimes when people look at, the work that you do, or even like the work that I do, you think that, oh, okay, like, I get a lot of guys who like send me dick pics, and I did a live about that the other day. And it's like, this is not really going to do anything to me. Do you know how many I've seen?
Exactly. Like I'm
Like,
not. There isn't a handle on me that you can just be like, oh, this is how you control them. Like, that's not the best way to get to you. Like, I will engage, and I have engaged in like, sexy flirting and what have you in my DMs. It's just that it is of course. And
right.
if you wanted to go any further, and you have to have something going on. Because I'm focused on my project, and I've always really been this way. I'm attracted to women who have drive and have something going on,
Mhm.
like have something like that attracts me even more than how great you look, because
Yeah.
that I don't know, it's just that thing, and especially black women, because I'm so inspired by that. Like I will stop what I'm doing and show you how to do this and do that, and I'm like, yo, so how did that thing go? Like that part of it,
Right.
that energy might lead into more of a sexual desire, and it's weird, but
Mhm.
that's how it's always been for me.
Wow. Beautiful.
Mm.
Beautiful. I love that. Like I definitely think that wow, that's just that's beautiful. And I think that's so important. I love to hear that. I think that it's so important. I think that, we there's so much more, and this is the basis to tantra, really,
Mhm.
connection, right, and intimacy. And
Right.
so this is why I love my work, because it's about teaching people how to be more intimate, how to form connections. And
Right.
people, when people hear that I work with tantra, they automatically think tantric sex, right?
Mhm.
And that's like 2% of this work. And the other, like, or 5%, the other like 98, 95% is teaching how to be more, um, form more connections, how to be more present, how to be more conscious in your body, how to be aware of what you're feeling, the different sensations, and then how to connect with your partner or with yourself. And
Right.
so, just having this conversation with you, I love what I'm hearing, because you're very conscious about your work, and you're very conscious about who you are and your relationships, and I think
I,
that that's very important for people,
yeah.
just consciousness, to become more conscious.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of times, I don't know where the source of it all was, but I just know that when I think about um, my own personal connections, the relationships that I've had, um, I was married earlier, so I got married when I was 22,
Hmm.
22, and we were
And
married
at
for
that time, it was just a you were monogamous at that
yeah, I was
time?
monogamous for the majority of my adult life. So
Okay.
um, I was married for 15 years, 15 years.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
and so I didn't question a lot of the world and myself. I just kind of just accepted things as they are and like, oh, you're supposed to get married and you're supposed to do this. And I was still practicing Christianity. I didn't question it. And what happens when you kind of follow a script is that you don't really examine like why you're doing it. You're just doing it.
Hmm.
When I got a chance to like separate myself from all the dogma I was kind of raised with, I started really questioning things. I started finding out that I found out some truths. And one of the biggest truth is that truth itself has to start here. Because there's a lot of like doctrine and lies and misinformation coming to you from the world. But when something vibrates with you internally, that's the gift that God gave us to like align with the truth. Now, the truth doesn't have to be the all overarching truth for everyone. I'm just saying, in my particular case, I can feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That's God's gift to us. It's God within
Hmm.
when we vibrate with a particular thing. So when I got out of my marriage and I decided, I don't resonate with the stories and the beliefs of Christianity, it was more so that I started trying to look for what the truth was for me, and I realized that creating erotica that resonates with me. It's like
Hmm.
stories and um, challenging myself to create something that will better my people in some way. That resonates with me. Um,
Hmm.
so this is where I get that energy for the project from, because it really is
Yeah.
me. If you look at all the emails and the activity online, it's just one. People keep reaching out to me and like, "Hey, I'd love to work with your team." I'm like, "Team? I don't think I've ever mentioned another person.
Right.
It's
All
and
right.
me editing and me. But the reason why I feel drawn to do this and to stay the course is because of that energy. I
Wow. Hmm.
great with the work that I'm doing.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. So Tasha says, I wish I could be more into our bodies. I sent my mom a link to a website for an online workshop on performing oral sex. Well, that went left. I just wish I could really talk with my parents about sex, lovemaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people haven't. Some people who were fortunate enough to have parents that they could talk about sex with. I didn't. I didn't grow up with parents that I could talk about sex with. But
Same
as I
here.
got older, I started because I remember saying to my mom, my dad had passed and she hadn't been with someone else, and I was like, "Yo, mom, like, you need to still have sex." And I was like, "Get a vibrator," and I was like, I can buy you a vibrator. Like, this is something you need to do. And she was like,
Yeah.
um,
Imagine.
but yes, I think that might have been the only one and only time we talked about anything about sex and vibrators and things like that. And then, but I think that keep trying, go slow, start, bringing up small little things. And then, you know, um, more and more when your mom gets comfortable, maybe you'll start to have more of a conversation. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've had sexual conversations with my mom, except for her telling me, "I hope you're not doing this. I hope you're not doing that."
Right.
It also keeps it in a space where I'm not um, even comfortable about telling her about the project. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm grown. I can, there isn't a, I'm not beholden to my mother, but at the same time, it's like I would have to be ready to have a much longer conversation. And where we
Mm-hmm.
talk about a lot is Christianity and her perspective and what have you. And I know I would basically have be fighting an uphill battle. My daughter, however, I had the project for run for about a whole year before I actually sat down and was like, by the way, I create erotica. And sometimes faces out there and you might see me pop up, and so she's like, oh, you're a grown, you're an adult, you can do what you want to do. And I'm like, okay. That's how
That's awesome.
it
So
is.
do you ever talk to your daughter like beyond that, like about sex and things like that? Like, could she come to you and be like, Dad,
Want to talk
you
too much
know,
about this, but her concerns are more about men and how they're kind of at her age they're more or less childish. And I'm saying that you're comparing them to me. I got mature early, and I also had a family, and I was focused, and I wasn't cheating. But so you're expecting guys at that this young age to sort of like act like your dad, and it's a
mhm,
bit much. So you should kind of like
mhm,
just have fun. We don't actually talk about sex, but she does come to me in terms of talking about her interactions with guys and like
mhm,
more or less their maturity and how she feels like it's an uphill battle.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'm
cool. So
open to it.
go ahead.
I was just saying I'm open to it. I'm not like against her coming to me to talk
Mhm.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that's important, you know. Um, Roski said, "Wow, same thing happened with my marriage. I had to move on."
Yeah.
And Tasha, yeah, it was keep your panties up and legs crossed. That was a sex talk. Yeah, my parents like instilled the fear of God in me. Like, oh my God, like they would know if I had sex, they would smell it. I literally thought my mom would smell it on me and would kill me. So, yeah, I never even had sex until college because I was like
Oh yeah.
deathly afraid. Like, yeah, if I did it in high school, she would find it.
I
And
did
then
it. Huh? Go on.
yeah, no, that was gonna say. Then the bad thing about that is then I went crazy. I went buck wild. Like all that repressed energy. I'm like, I became a nymph. So,
Right.
or maybe I already was. Maybe I don't know. But
Yeah. I don't know if it was, for me, it was, I had sex at 18, and it really wasn't, I don't think, I haven't had a lot of partners. I was very much trying to follow the format, and
Mhm,
I was very judgmental in my younger years. So even so about my own personal desires and wants, like I was repressing myself to try to
mhm,
fit into this kind of stereotype or this path laid out in front of me, or that I believe was laid out in front of me. So it's only like after the divorce I was like, you know what, how much life I haven't lived and blah blah blah. So, that's when I realized like I can establish and have a connection with more than one person, and
mhm.
natural and loving and giving, and everyone's on the same page. Um, and it's more fulfilling to live that sort of life for me, as opposed to,
Yeah,
you know, you know,
yeah,
not natural, like following something. When you're in a relationship and you feel you have to repress a part of who you are, it's, to me, I've learned the hard way, it's not worth it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I definitely want to have you back on, and because I have some questions about all of this now because it's just interesting. Like it's really interesting. Like you got married early on at a young age, and for many years, 15 years, and it was
Mhm.
monogamous. And so basically, about 37, you got divorced.
Yeah.
And now you're 41. You said, yeah, we're doing the math in our heads here, right? We're doing the math.
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah.
And now you're polyamorous. So I would love to go into more of that. And yeah, I would love to delve more into that.
I'm up for it.
And yeah, okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe next week. Next weekend, we won't be able to do it again. Next weekend, I'm going to be doing a sacred kink retreat. And if you guys saw the first flyer that I put out, that was Brian's work, So with Jay Coop, that
Yeah.
was his picture that he took, and I loved it. So that's on the flyer for the Sacred Kink Retreat. So that's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday next week, starting the 12th. And we're going to actually be touching on these things like how to have communication, how to express what you're looking for, what you need, consent, all of these important things within a relationship so that you can have a conscious relationship. Because even like in the beginning when you were talking about the lady that you had come in and, was into the Dom, had the Dom relationship. And, so I have a lot of people coming in and wanting to learn about kink, about BDSM, and maybe they're in a current relationship and maybe their partner sees things differently. So how to be able to communicate with your partner, how to be able to have both of your needs met. So we're going to be doing that next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Sacred Kink Retreat. Check me up on my website for that information. So maybe during the week or in like 2 weekends, we can from now we can meet again and go more into polyamorous, polyamory. Yeah, we'll check that story. So you want to share? Do you have anything coming up? Anything you want to share with folks?
I do actually have about 4 scenes that I've shot and that are in different stages of post production. The best way to keep up to date with Black Touch and what we're doing, or me, what I'm doing, is to go to the website and sign up. Follow me on Instagram, and that's it. Do I got anything big happening coming up? No, I just got more scenes to shoot and more content to put out.
Right, and you're in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, Atlanta, Georgia.
Close
New York and my
to you, Tasha. I think Tasha's in the DMC, the DMV, the
DMV.
DMV,
Yeah,
DC area.
I'm originally from New York. My parents are Jamaican, but I moved here when I was 2000 in 2006. So I've been enjoying it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm originally from New York too. My parents are Haitian.
Oh,
Um,
I stay.
yeah. Yep. Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, East Flat.
So stuck by East Flatbush. Cool. And then I moved to Florida for a bit, then the DMV, now Brazil, so all
Wow.
over the world. Let's see, somebody else made a come. Oh yeah, Tasha flying over. Oh, Tasha said, do you still experience Tasha with the Haitian Jamaican flag? Do you
Yeah.
still do you still experience judgmental thoughts surrounding sex ever?
I suspect I do. I just check myself because I think that it's almost impossible to not have judgment at all. I think that's a part of like human nature. So when people,
Hmm.
yeah, no judgment, it's like, what are you, not human?
Right.
It's more so about being aware of the judgment. So
Hmm.
the things I was probably judgmental about before, I'm a lot less. I don't even think about now. Um, but there are things that not in my own personal life. I'm like almost all the way wide open when it comes to experiencing stuff. I always try something once or twice and see if it vibes with me. Um, but I do not judge to the point where I suppress I suppress other people's freedom to like express themselves in front of me or with. I don't
Yeah.
do.
And so, question like, what could you say to people based on your experience as a visual storyteller, erotica,
Mhm.
and taking pictures of women, from all walks of life that might be shy to like full on crazy. Like, what piece of advice can you say? Like, maybe if a woman is like really, maybe completely shy about her body, and maybe she wants to take nude pictures or do a scene or something, but just feels like I don't know if people would love my body. I don't know if I would be beautiful in this. I don't know. I'm just uncomfortable. I don't think I'm good. I'm beautiful enough.
When I create any bit of content with a woman, it's a collaborative thing, right? So it's
Mhm.
like they're coming into this partnership to create this thing, and what should matter to her most is my personal perception on what we're doing. Because
Mhm.
when let's say you are shy, you are you're like concerned about how you look and how you'd end up, and you're afraid to share that with the world, or even just take pictures for yourself. When you're working with somebody, to me, I have the utmost respect and desire for, not desire, but the most utmost respect for the people that I work with. And so I always approach it as, let's come together and create something beautiful. Now, what I would always say is, look at what the person you're working with has done already and who they've worked with. And if you respect the work that they do and you get to kind of know them, you realize that there's less to be afraid of than you probably think. Whether or not that guy, whoever is shooting is judgmental of you, you can see it in the way they behave. You can see it in the way that they write their captions under the work that they put out, and the type of work they put out, and the specific type of person they work with. Now, I try not to be too specific about who I work with, because I always, my goal is to try to take the beauty that I see and capture it. Now, I see any failing of that as a personal failing, not as a problem with the person I'm working with. And that's the way I've approached shooting women and shooting in this space, is always, maybe I need to relax a little bit more. I need to find a better angle and light, but it's never really the person I'm working with, because I think there's beauty in all of us, and then beauty in
Mhm.
all women, especially Black women. And so I would always definitely say, look into the person you're choosing to work with. And
Mhm.
it's, in terms of a personal thing, it's sort of like jumping off of a diving board. Once you get up off of that board, there isn't like any time thing to go back. So it's really
Mhm.
about pushing yourself to the point where you jump. And
Yeah.
once you've taken that leap, um, it's a matter of trusting in the person that's in that water, waiting to work with you. Um,
Mhm.
and there's very little, especially if like the work is for you. There's very little to feel worried about, especially if it doesn't go out to the world. Give it yourself,
Mhm.
give yourself a shot. That's the way.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's something that's beautiful to do. I know that I've been wanting to, and I haven't done yet, but I've been wanting to lead a retreat where I do a workshop and then we do photo shoot, and
Mhm.
just really get the women to just kind of work on just feeling comfortable in their bodies and being okay being nude and feeling sexy, because
Mhm.
so many of us, especially as women, we've been taught for so long to wear long baggy clothes, don't show your body, don't be objectified, and so we have all of these different things on us, and it just makes it hard for us to, from so many different aspects, to just be 100% comfortable at being in our own bodies and being nude,
Right.
and then worrying about what other people are going to think, how we're going to look, I got a little bit of extra weight here on,
Mhm.
love handles and all of this. So it's, but I think I
I
think,
would always want to work with somebody who makes someone that looks like me look good,
mhm,
right? Because
yeah,
that's the thing. If everybody you shoot is in their 20s, and their breasts are up here, and it's like, of course, he's used to doing that, so he's going to find a challenge in working with anybody else. But if I find someone who I can see works with a woman that looks like me, or works with someone that looks like me, I can trust in the fact that he knows what he's doing, or she
right,
knows what they're doing.
right, right, exactly. Good point. Good point. So thank you so much for being on here.
Having me.
And guys, thank you for watching this, the YouTube. You can find me on Instagram at Prandata Prim or Sacred Soul Retreat, Twitter and Facebook, Renee Adolfi. And I also have a Patreon account exclusive from members. You can find me on Patreon at Prandata Prim, where I go into more deeper work that I can't show on YouTube or Facebook, So, check me out on Patreon as well to continue doing deeper work with Tantra and sacred sexuality. And if you're on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can receive messages for my upcoming videos. And again, you can reach Brian at blacktouch.com. He's on Instagram and Twitter, Black Touch. That's BLK Touch, TOUCH. And his email is Brian at BLKTOUCH.com. And he is okay with being harassed, he said. All right. So stay tuned because we're going to come back and we're going to have Brian come back on and talk about polyamorous relationships and what made that change, how he went into it. Tasha, other ladies, Ty, have your questions written, already waiting. Get prepared for when he comes back. Oh, let's see. All right. Tasha said harassing. We got it on video. He said it's okay. So, all right. So thank you guys. Thank you once again for coming out. This was great. Had a great time.
Yeah, same
and yeah. Okay. Any closing words?
No, just thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. And thank you guys. Have a good one. Be safe this weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.